like giving a mental patient drugs. You might help them be a bit more functional socially. You may also just numb them into oblivion. If you ever visit a psychiatric ward, you'll see that happening. Some people are able to come out of a terrifying state of mind where the voices won't let up. Others are just zombies. So we need to, as individuals, be more cautious about this. Not look to governments to regulate it, because they haven't a clue what's going on. They're 10 years behind the curve. The companies that are producing the newer technologies want to sell the technology, so don't trust them. You have to come back to your own self, your own sense of individuality, your own true will, the essence of your own being. And it's going to require a small number of people to keep doing this incessantly. If we can get a bigger number, great, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But this is why I think that mystery schools still have a role in the 21st century of the Common Era. We need a place where people can get dragged out of themselves and made to look. One of the commonest questions that comes up on online forums about the mysteries is, oh, can you do me an online astral initiation?
That's Robert Zink. You were saying you didn't know who he was. The astral initiation.
I didn't want to get into
okay.
slagging anyone particularly. But no, it's ridiculous. The whole point is you link a bunch of people in a room and something happens if there's anything useful being said. If you've ever been at one of those conferences where you get somebody really exciting, a Rupert Sheldrake or somebody, you can feel the room changes because everyone's starting to switch off assumptions and say, that's an interesting notion. That stretches my thought process by this much. And that's great when that happens. Similarly, in a good occult ritual, the minds are linking. There's a marvelous essay by W.B. Yeats, whom Crowley hated, and Yeats hated Crowley, but he was good on the theory of magic. It's just called On Magic, where he talks about the things that he basically believes in, including the evocation of spirits, though I know not what they be. He didn't know how to define a spirit, but he believed you could still get this thing to manifest. And he believed that the minds of a group of people in a room could be linked by use of certain symbols, by use of certain imagery. You can't do that through a computer. You're dealing with Ruach. The Ruach is what deals with this stuff. You have to take in information, organized information. You're using certain controls, the mouse and so on, or whatever you've got, in order to enhance the image, the info, or get more of something, or follow a rabbit hole all the way down from one topic to another. You're not engaged with the neshama online. It just doesn't happen. Maybe one day we will understand enough about how consciousness functions by using the brain, and we're going to have to flip around our thinking that the brain generates consciousness. I'm a Sheldrakean in that way. I believe that the brain is not the sole locus of consciousness. There is a noosphere. There is a collective field occurring, the same way that my body is involved with different aspects of consciousness as well, not just this particular bony globe up here with some blood-filled grey matter. There's more going on than that. We need to be careful if we start trying to mess with this before we have a stronger understanding of what it's about.
I have a question. In my, with my work, I find that I've developed like a fiery feeling in my chest kind of thing. Like, do you get a lot of people talking about getting kind of like pains and stuff after like working with it, or like is that very common? Because I know that a lot of people have that. It's like my heart, like I don't know if chakra is the right way to describe it, but it's like it absorbs everything and it like feels like pain and like burning, all sorts of things.
If you're going to do anything magical, and using magic in the broadest sense, a lot of meditative exercises are magical. Yeah, the body gets involved. This model of different bodies, physical, etheric, and astral, mental, and so on, is one way of looking at it. It's another one of these hierarchical systems that helps us organize thought. We shouldn't get too hung up on the specifics there, but it works, so use it. And yes, certain stuff gets stored in the body. I mentioned that my mother was a terrified woman. I was imprinted with her fear. I learned to be like this as a kid, and I never found I could straighten the shoulders thereafter. There was always a tension there that I've never been able to shake. For some people, it comes through as specific pain at certain times. Properly followed, any of the established training systems should be able to get you past that, but you have to work through. You can't do an end run around that. I know somebody who's had a lot of physical ailments because they initiated a process and they're not doing a daily practice to regulate it. When that individual tried doing a daily practice again, it actually made things worse. And I was told, I can't do that stuff, it's making it even more intense. My suggestion was, well, you're going to have to push through this for a few weeks to equilibrate things, was not well received, and I thought, well, okay, that was my best shot, I don't have a second one, so take it or leave it. Yeah, people get all kinds of stuff. I used to get a numbness on my right-hand side when I was doing pentagram rituals. It really bothered me because there was a sense of a dark presence, which may have been there, but it may also have simply been how my brain interpreted the numbness. Numbness, lack of sensation, lack of sensory input seemed like a dark presence. Eventually, it was traced back to the fact I've got a dead C5 nerve here, and I don't think there was anything more to it than that. There was some damage to the nerve years ago, so it came down to a very mundane thing, but I built up this horrible metaphysical scenario of maybe I'm being demon-obsessed. But no. Persist, and I recommend banishing rituals or a middle pillar ritual just to keep yourself equilibrated.
Yeah, it's strange. Well, it seems... Also, I was... on Vedic astrology, it says that my moon is actually in a base of Aries that makes me feel everybody's emotions as well, that like it's ruled by the god of death because we feel everybody's pain. It makes us feel like we're dying on the inside, so it could have something to do with that, but I'd like to get control over it kind of thing.
Then you have to accept that it's there. Trying to get control.
Yeah.
Half of these bad physical symptoms we get is because there is a tension coming from us trying to regulate the body and make it do what we want. The ego structures of the personality say, I need control, so it imposes a new level of control, which was the root problem to begin with. Backtrack and say, this is happening, it's okay. I'm going to accept this. Removes some of the root problem. I mean, the real roots of it may well be in stuff we've been through as children and it's reinforced in adolescence. You can't perhaps eradicate it, but you can begin to let go. One problem for all occultists is you can't do occultism without a certain amount of imagination. If you don't have an imagination, you can't visualize stuff, and there's always this issue of, is this objectively real, or is it all in my head? You need to step between those two pillars of opposition and say it doesn't matter. There is simply an experience happening, and this experience itself has validity to the extent it helps me understand what I'm about and what I'm doing in this world.
Is it real to you?
Is it real to you? If you're going to express a true will, you need a field of operation to express it into. I see a lot of people talking about, well, it just means do what thou wilt. It doesn't. You don't even think about anyone else. You're just going to do what you want, what you feel you should do. Well, it's having an effect. You can't do anything without affecting the universe. If I say a word, then everyone in the room resonates in their ear with that sound. It has an effect. I might be talking bullshit. It's up to you to decide. That's bullshit, or maybe he's saying something interesting, or something in between. But you can't do anything without affecting other people, and imagination is a key factor in that. Imagination is always going to be stimulated for occultists and people of like mind. You need to learn not to run off too far with the darker imaginings. Like I was saying, that the dark being I had here all traced back to a numbness here, which traced back to a nerve that had died, and that's it. There isn't anything here. I am not haunted by something, but my brain was interpreting the sensory input in those terms. And a lot of people get caught up in that. I know people who have virtual hypochondriacs because their body reacts to the liberation of old pain, contacting levels of difficulty and anxiety, and they don't know what to do with it.
Well, sometimes it like flutters and it would wake me up from sleep and stuff, before my mom got cancer, it was like really crazy kind of thing. I remember around that time I was in kind of a bit of a trance state, and a flame appeared, and I actually could feel it burn me, actually. It like startled me right out of the trance state. I was trying to learn how to do astral projection. I was kind of meditating, and a flame appeared, and it burnt me, and then like the next day I accidentally lit my coat on fire and burnt my hand again. And then the day after that, I like burnt my hand once again on the radiator, and it was odd and like, so there has been this kind of
well, if the imagination produces the image, you're going to keep responding to that.
Yeah.
Subconsciousness, I don't mean the deep unconscious, but subconsciousness is a reflective thing. If you put an implant in, it bounces back with that.
Mm-hmm.
It will just come back to suggestion. One of the difficult things for occultists is we all come in with these, I keep using the same words, fears, anxieties, insecurities, blah, blah, blah. And that's the signal we keep sending ourselves. I am afraid, I am nervous, I am not sure about what to do. And subconsciousness says, okay, that's what I'm told. Fear, insecurity, I need to be afraid to keep myself safe. You get stuck on a feedback loop for decades, actually rehabilitating subconsciousness by saying, you know what, it's okay. It's really all right. The universe will hold together, and I will be here right until I need to die. If you can get that idea in your head, life begins to feel rather safer than it did when you were anxious about that.